She left everyone in Seoul knew one terrifying truth. If you became the personal secretary of Kang Tae-jun, you would be gone before Friday. Some resigned after one day, some burst into tears before lunch. Others simply disappeared from the company, without even collecting their final paycheck. No one blamed them, because Kang Tae-jun wasn't just the cold CEO of the world's fastest-growing security empire. He was a man whispered about in dark corners, a Korean mafia boss whose name made powerful politicians hesitate. Rival syndicates vanish overnight, and billionaires lower their voices. His rules were absolute. Never speak unless spoken to. Never ask personal questions. Never enter his office without permission. Never touch him. And most importantly, never make mistakes. For 7 years, 23 secretaries had failed. Some lasted 4 days. One incredibly brave woman survived 6. No one reached the second week. The position became known as the impossible job. Recruiters offered 6-figure salaries, luxury apartments, sports cars, private healthcare. Nothing worked. The fear was greater than the paycheck. Then, one rainy Monday morning, everything changed. Her name was Naomi Brooks, 26 years old, freshly hired through an international recruitment program. She had curly hair that always escaped its ponytail. She wore oversized glasses that constantly slid down her nose. She apologized too much. She laughed at the wrong moments. And somehow, she managed to spill coffee before she even met her new boss. The expensive espresso landed across the marble lobby floor. Employees gasped. Security guards froze. The receptionist quietly whispered, "She's dead." Naomi looked around in embarrassment before grabbing a stack of paper towels from the reception desk. "I'm so sorry," she laughed nervously. "I promise I'm usually less dangerous." No one laughed back. An elevator opened. Silence swallowed the lobby. Kang Tae-jun stepped out wearing a perfectly tailored black suit. His expression was colder than winter. Everyone immediately bowed, except Naomi. She was too busy scrubbing the floor. Without looking up, she said, "Careful, sir. It's slippery." The entire lobby stopped breathing. No one, absolutely no one, had ever spoken casually to Kang Tae-jun. Security prepared themselves. Executives looked away. The receptionist nearly fainted. Slowly, Tae-jun looked down. There, kneeling on the polished floor, was the newest secretary, covered in coffee. Hair falling into her face, still trying to clean the mess herself, she finally looked up. "Oh." Her eyes widened. "You must be Mr. Kang." She stood too quickly. Her heel caught the bucket. Water splashed across the floor this time, onto his polished Italian shoes. Someone whispered, "She's finished." Naomi covered her mouth. I, I am so incredibly sorry." Instead of speaking, Tae-jun simply stared at her. 10 long seconds. The building felt frozen in time. Finally, he spoke. "Follow me." That was all. No shouting, no threats, no firing. Employees watched in complete disbelief as Naomi followed the most feared man in Korea toward the private elevator. Inside the elevator, silence stretched painfully. Naomi kept staring at the floor. "I know I'm getting fired." No response. She sighed. "My mom always said my feet think faster than my brain." Still nothing. Then, to her surprise, the corners of Tae-jun's mouth almost moved, almost. The smallest expression anyone had ever witnessed. When they reached the executive floor, he stopped outside his office. "You have 1 week," she blinked. 1 week? If you survive. He opened the massive office doors. You stay. The challenge had begun. By Tuesday morning, Naomi accidentally organized his files by color instead of security level. By Tuesday afternoon, she walked into the wrong conference room, filled with dangerous mafia associates. Instead of screaming, she cheerfully offered everyone homemade cookies. The room became completely silent. One tattooed gangster looked genuinely confused. "No one's ever baked for us." Naomi smiled. "Well," she shrugged, "everyone deserves fresh cookies." The hardened men exchanged awkward glances before quietly accepting them. Tae-jun watched from the doorway. He had expected panic. Instead, His most dangerous lieutenants were politely saying thank you. Wednesday brought another disaster. Naomi discovered one of the janitors secretly eating lunch alone in a storage room. The elderly man looked frightened when she entered. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't want anyone seeing me." Naomi sat beside him without hesitation. She shared half her sandwich, asked about his grandchildren, listened to stories about his late wife. Neither of them realized Kang Tae-jun had witnessed the entire conversation through the hallway security camera. His head of security quietly said, "She doesn't know. He's worked here for 28 years. Tae-jun answered, "None of the executives know his name." For the first time in years, he noticed the people everyone else ignored. Thursday evening, a violent thunderstorm hit Seoul. Most employees rushed home. Naomi stayed behind. She noticed lights still glowing beneath the parking garage. Following the sound, she found one of the company's delivery drivers changing a flat tire in the pouring rain. Without thinking, she removed her jacket, held an umbrella over him, and helped despite getting soaked from head to toe. The driver kept apologizing. "You'll ruin your clothes." Naomi smiled. "They're only clothes." Someone secretly photographed the moment. The image reached Tae-jun's phone within minutes. He stared at it much longer than he intended. It wasn't the flat tire or the rain. It was her smile. The same genuine smile she wore whether speaking to billionaires or janitors or delivery drivers. She never changed. Friday finally arrived. The entire company waited for the announcement. Would she become secretary number 24 to fail? Or something no one believed possible? That morning, an emergency meeting interrupted everything. A rival crime syndicate had launched an attack on one of Tae-jun's businesses overseas. Phones rang non-stop, executives panicked. Security teams rushed through the halls. Naomi quietly organized reports, answered calls, and brought coffee to exhausted employees without being asked. She noticed people skipping meals, so she ordered food for everyone using her own savings. When the finance manager protested, she smiled. "They can pay me back later." Most never did. She never asked. Late that night, after nearly 20 exhausting hours, the crisis was finally contained. One by one, exhausted employees left the building. Only 2 lights remained on. One inside the chairman's office, the other at the secretary's desk. Naomi had fallen asleep while organizing tomorrow's schedule. Her head rested on a folder. A cold cup of tea sat beside her. Tae-jun stepped outside his office. He quietly looked at her for several moments. Then, he noticed something that made him stop. Her shoes. The soles were separating. One heel had been glued back together several times. Her handbag had tiny stitches where it had been repaired by hand. She had spent money feeding his employees, instead of replacing things she clearly needed. Without waking her, he gently placed his own suit jacket over her shoulders. Then he walked back into his office before anyone could see. The security camera recorded everything. By sunrise, the impossible had happened. The man who trusted no one had broken the first rule he had lived by for 15 years. When Naomi opened her eyes, warm sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the executive office. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then she noticed the expensive black suit jacket covering her shoulders. She blinked. Whose? Before she could think any further, the office doors opened. Mr. Han, the company's senior legal advisor, walked in carrying a tablet. He stopped in surprise. "You slept here?" Naomi jumped to her feet. "Oh no, I overslept." She quickly folded the jacket. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." Mr. Han quietly took the jacket from her hands. "Chairman Kang has already begun his meetings." Naomi looked confused. "He didn't wake me?" The older man adjusted his glasses. "No," she smiled softly. "That was kind." Mr. Han almost laughed to Kend. No one had ever used that word to describe Kang Tae-jun. Not once. Throughout the morning, whispers spread across the company. The chairman gave her his jacket. He didn't fire her. She survived the first week. Employees who had never dared approach the executive floor suddenly found excuses to pass by Naomi's desk. Everyone wanted to see the mysterious secretary, who had somehow melted a piece of ice. Naomi noticed the strange looks. "Did I forget to wash coffee off my face again?" The receptionist laughed. "No. Then why is everyone staring? They're trying to figure out your secret." Naomi shrugged. "I don't have one." But someone else believed differently. Across the city, inside a luxurious penthouse overlooking the Han River, a woman slammed a crystal glass against the wall. The expensive glass shattered into hundreds of sparkling pieces. So, she smiled coldly. She lasted. Her name was Yu Min Seo, elegant, beautiful, brilliant, and dangerously ambitious. For 3 years, she had planned to become Mrs. Kang Every secretary before Naomi had unknowingly helped her. She leaked information, created misunderstandings, made sure no woman remained close to Tae-jun long enough to earn his trust. Now, someone had ruined everything. She picked up her phone. "Watch the new secretary." The voice on the other side answered immediately. 24 hours a day? Minseo's smile widened. Every second. Back at headquarters, Naomi's second week began with another disaster. She accidentally entered the chairman's private elevator while carrying 6 heavy files. Halfway up, the elevator suddenly stopped. Emergency lights switched on. Naomi looked around. "Oh," she sighed. "This would happen today." A voice behind her calmly said, "Yes." She nearly screamed. Kang Tae-jun had stepped into the elevator moments before the doors closed. She had been too distracted to notice. Now they were trapped together, just the two of them. For the first time, Naomi nervously pressed the emergency button. No signal. She laughed awkwardly. "I guess elevators don't like Mondays." Silence. Then, to her complete surprise, Tae-jun asked, "Are you always this calm?" She looked at him. "I'm not calm." "No? My knees are shaking." He looked down. They actually were. She smiled. "I just don't think panicking helps." Several long minutes passed. Then she noticed him rubbing his left hand. Almost unconsciously, his breathing had become slightly heavier. "You don't like elevators." It wasn't a question. He remained silent. Naomi understood. Claustrophobia. Without mentioning it again, she quietly sat on the floor. She pulled a tiny pack of playing cards from her handbag. "I carry these everywhere." He looked at her. "My little brother loved card games." She shuffled them. "When he got nervous before exams, we'd play." She smiled. It distracted him. Tae-jun stared at the cards. "You expect me to play? I expect nothing." She placed the deck between them. But sitting in silence makes time move slower. After another long pause, the feared Mafia boss sat across from her. Naomi dealt 2 hands. Security cameras later showed something no employee would ever believe: the most feared man in Korea. Playing cards on the elevator floor. When engineers finally opened the doors 43 minutes later, everyone froze. Naomi was laughing. Tae-jun was quietly holding a terrible hand of cards. Neither of them seemed embarrassed. The technicians looked completely speechless. As they walked out, Naomi smiled. "You almost won." Without looking back, Tae-jun replied. "I let you," she laughed. "Sure you did." Several employees exchanged stunned glances. Had Chairman Kang just made a joke? The rumors exploded before lunchtime. By evening, every department had heard a different version. They played poker. They laughed together. They were trapped for hours. They argued. They sang. Each story became more unbelievable than the last. Only one thing was true. Chairman Kang had smiled, even if it lasted less than a second. That same evening, Naomi stayed late again. She noticed a little girl sitting alone in the lobby, no older than 7. The child hugged a worn teddy bear while quietly trying not to cry. Naomi knelt beside her. "Are you lost?" The girl shook her head. "I'm waiting for Daddy." "Where does he work?" "Security." Naomi immediately recognized the company uniform folded beside the child. Her father was working overtime. Again, Naomi bought 2 cups of hot chocolate from the cafe downstairs. One for herself, one for the little girl. They spent an hour drawing funny animals on office paper. When the exhausted security officer finally arrived, he looked horrified. "I'm so sorry I couldn't leave my post." Naomi simply smiled. "She kept me company." The father bowed repeatedly. "You have no idea what this means." From the second-floor balcony, Kong Tae-jun had witnessed everything. He remembered something he hadn't thought about in 20 years. His own father, always working, always absent, always promising, next week. A promise that never came. For the first time in years, an old memory hurt. That night, after everyone had gone home, Tae-jun called his head of operations. "How many employees regularly work past midnight?" The man checked his records. "Almost 140. "Reduce it, sir." "Effective immediately." "And employees with children? They leave on time." The executive blinked in disbelief. "Yes, Chairman." One simple act of kindness from Naomi had changed a company policy overnight. But neither of them knew that someone else had been watching. Across the street, inside a parked black SUV, a camera lens lowered. The photographer smiled as he reviewed hundreds of pictures, Naomi laughing with Kong Tae-jun, Naomi sitting beside the little girl, Naomi wearing the chairman's jacket. He made one phone call. "I have everything." On the other end, Yu Min-seo smiled. "Excellent. Tomorrow," she whispered, "we destroy her." The next morning, Naomi arrived at work smiling, completely unaware that her life was about to change. She greeted the security guards. "Good morning." She handed one of them a warm blueberry muffin. "I baked too many." The guard smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Miss Brooks." As she stepped into the lobby, she immediately noticed something was wrong. Everyone went silent. People who usually smiled quickly looked away. Some whispered behind their phones. Others stared with pity. Naomi frowned. "What happened?" No one answered. Then her phone vibrated. One message, then another, and another. She opened the first link. Her heart stopped. A photo of her sleeping at her desk, covered by Kang Tae-jun's suit jacket. Another showed the two of them sitting inside the elevator. Another showed them smiling while playing cards. The headlines were even worse. Chairman Kang's secret girlfriend? The new secretary who seduced Korea's most dangerous man. Did she use kindness to climb to the top? Thousands of hateful comments poured in every minute. Gold digger, attention seeker. She planned this. I knew she wasn't innocent. Naomi slowly lowered her phone. Her hands trembled. She whispered, "I didn't do anything." Before she could gather herself, Mr. Han hurried toward her. "The chairman wants you upstairs." His expression was unusually serious. Inside the executive office, several senior executives were already waiting. The atmosphere felt colder than ice. Stacks of newspapers covered the conference table. Every front page carried the same story. Naomi stood silently. "I'm sorry." She lowered her head. "I never wanted this." One executive immediately spoke. "We recommend terminating her employment." Another nodded. "The company's reputation is at risk." A third added, "The shareholders will panic." Naomi quietly accepted their words. Maybe they were right. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "My resignation." The room fell silent. "I don't want anyone to suffer because of me." She placed the letter on the table, then turned to leave. "Stop!" Kang Tae-jun's voice echoed through the room. Naomi froze. Without even looking at the resignation letter, he calmly said, "You're not leaving." The executives stared at him. "Chairman," one of them protested. He raised one hand, instant silence. Then he looked directly at Naomi. "Did you leak those photographs?" "No." "Did you ask for attention?" "No." "Did you lie to me?" Her eyes immediately met his. "Never." He nodded once. "Then we're finished." He picked up her resignation letter, without reading a single word, and quietly tore it in half. Every executive watched in disbelief. "She stays." Nobody argued again. Outside the office, Naomi struggled to hide her emotions. "You trusted me." She looked at him. "Why?" His answer came without hesitation. Because everyone else judged you. I observed you. Those words stayed with her all day. Meanwhile, across the city, Yu Min-seo was furious. She wasn't fired? The photographer shook his head. No. She clenched her fists. Interesting. If rumors don't work. She smiled coldly. We'll make her look guilty. That afternoon, an anonymous package arrived at headquarters, addressed directly to Naomi. She opened it carefully. Inside, a beautiful diamond necklace, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was no sender's name, only one handwritten note. Thank you for making my life brighter. Naomi looked completely confused. I've never seen this before. Unfortunately, someone had already taken photographs. Within minutes, another rumor spread through the company. The chairman bought her jewelry. Employees began whispering again. Naomi immediately carried the box to Tae-jun's office. I don't know who sent this. He examined the necklace carefully. Then his expression changed. This isn't mine. He pressed a button on his desk. Security. Minutes later, the company's cybercrime team traced the package. It had been delivered through a fake courier account, paid entirely with anonymous cash. Someone inside the company wanted Naomi framed. For the first time, Tae-jun realized this wasn't gossip anymore. Someone was hunting her. That evening, heavy rain poured across Seoul. Most employees rushed home. Naomi stayed behind to organize tomorrow's meetings. As she left the building, she noticed an elderly woman struggling to cross the flooded street. Cars sped past without slowing down. Without hesitation, Naomi ran into the rain. She held the woman's groceries, walked beside her, made sure she reached the other side safely. Neither of them noticed a black motorcycle parked nearby. Its rider quietly spoke into an earpiece. Target confirmed. Should we proceed? A woman's voice answered. Not yet. I want her frightened first. Naomi continued walking, unaware she was being followed. Halfway home, she sensed footsteps behind her, slow, steady, getting closer. She quickened her pace. The footsteps did the same. Her heartbeat raced. She turned a corner. No one. She sighed with relief. Then, a black van suddenly stopped beside her. The side door slid open. A gloved hand reached toward her. Get down! A familiar voice shouted. Before Naomi could react, someone pulled her backward. A black SUV crashed into the side of the van with incredible force. Metal twisted. Glass exploded across the street. Several masked men jumped out, only to freeze. Standing in front of Naomi, his black coat soaked by the rain, his eyes colder than death, was Kang Tae-jun. He had come himself. The attackers exchanged nervous glances. One whispered, It's him. For the first time, the hunters realized they had become the hunted. Rain hammered the streets. The black van's engine roared. For one terrifying second, time stood still. Kang Tae-jun pushed Naomi behind him. Stay back. His voice was calm, too calm. The masked men climbed out of the damaged van, gripping metal pipes and stun batons. Their leader sneered. So the rumors were true. The great Chairman Kang really does protect his secretary. Tae-jun didn't answer. His eyes never left the attackers. Naomi grabbed his sleeve. We should call the police. Without turning around, he quietly replied. They won't be here in time. The leader stepped forward. Hand her over. We're only interested in the girl. Another man laughed. Don't make this harder than it has to be. The street fell silent. Then Tae-jun spoke just 4 words. You chose poorly tonight. Before anyone could react, several black SUVs appeared from both ends of the street. Their headlights flooded the road. Doors opened in perfect unison. More than a dozen members of Tae-jun's private security team stepped out, dressed in black suits with discreet earpieces. The attackers instantly realized they were surrounded. Their confidence vanished. One whispered, We've been trapped. The leader tried to run. He barely took 2 steps before security officers blocked every escape. Within minutes, the masked men were restrained without a shot being fired. Naomi stood frozen. She had never seen anything like it. Tae-jun turned to her. Are you hurt? She slowly shook her head. No. Then her voice cracked. But I almost was. For the first time since they had met, he noticed fear in her eyes. Not panic, not hysteria, just quiet fear. He removed his coat and draped it over her shoulders. It's over. She nodded. But her hands were still trembling. Back at headquarters, the captured men were questioned by Taijun's security chief. One of them finally broke. We weren't supposed to hurt her. Only scare her. Someone paid us. Who? The man swallowed hard. We never saw her face, but she called herself. He hesitated. Miss Y across town, Yu Mincio smiled as she watched the evening news. No mention of the failed attack, no arrests, no names. She believed her identity was still hidden. She raised a glass of wine. Naomi, you've survived again. But next time, you won't be so lucky. The following morning, Naomi insisted on returning to work. Dr. Han looked shocked. Miss Brooks, after last night, you should rest. She smiled gently. If I stay home because I'm afraid, then whoever did this wins. Word of her decision spread through the company. Employees who barely knew her began stopping by her desk. One brought flowers, another left chocolates. Someone else quietly placed a handwritten note on her keyboard. We're glad you're safe. Naomi looked around the office, overwhelmed. I don't deserve all this. The receptionist smiled. You've been kind to everyone. People remember that. Meanwhile, Kong Taijun called an emergency executive meeting. Every department head filled the conference room. His expression was unreadable. Effective immediately, he began. We are increasing security for every employee. The executives exchanged surprised looks. Not just executives. Everyone. Receptionists, drivers, janitors, maintenance staff. If someone works in this company, they go home safely. One executive cautiously asked, Chairman, because of the attack? He answered without hesitation. Because I should have done it years ago. Across the table, Mr. Han quietly smiled. The chairman wasn't just protecting Naomi anymore. He was changing. That afternoon, Naomi noticed something unusual. The elderly janitor she often had lunch with wasn't at work. She asked around until someone quietly explained. His wife was admitted to the hospital last night. Without saying a word, Naomi packed a basket of fruit and visited the hospital after work. She spent an hour talking with the old couple, making them laugh despite their worries. Before leaving, she secretly paid part of their medical bill at the reception desk. She asked the cashier for one favor. Please don't tell them who paid. As she walked out of the hospital, she didn't notice a familiar black sedan parked across the street. Inside sat Kang Tae-jun. He had followed, not because he doubted her, but because he wanted to be certain she arrived safely. Instead, he witnessed something that left him speechless. She had spent money she could barely afford, helping someone who could never repay her. His driver quietly asked, Should we go, sir? Tae-jun kept watching the hospital entrance. After a long silence, he finally spoke. No, pay the rest of the hospital bill. The driver looked surprised. In your name? Tae-jun shook his head. No, in hers. The driver smiled knowingly. Yes, Chairman. That night, Naomi returned to her tiny apartment. She opened her wallet. Only a few bills remained. She sighed. I'll figure something out. Just then, her landlord knocked on the door. Miss Brooks? She nervously opened it. I'm sorry. If it's about the rent, I can pay next week. The elderly landlord looked confused. Your rent? It was paid this afternoon. Naomi blinked. By who? He checked his receipt. It says. He adjusted his glasses. Anonymous. Naomi stood frozen. Somewhere across the city, Kang Tae-jun looked out over the lights of Seoul. For years, he had believed power solved every problem. Money, fear, control. But one ordinary young woman had shown him something stronger. Kindness. And without realizing it, he had begun following her example. Neither of them knew that Yu Mincio had just discovered the anonymous payment. She smiled slowly. So, the chairman has truly fallen. She picked up her phone. It's time. Prepare phase 2. 3 days later, headquarters looked peaceful again. Employees laughed in the cafeteria. Meetings returned to normal. Even Naomi finally believed the danger had passed. She was wrong. At exactly 9 a.m., Kang Tae-jun received a plain black envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, Naomi, leaving the hospital. Below it, written in red ink, were 6 chilling words. Next time, we won't miss. The room fell silent. Tae-jun slowly folded the photograph. His expression never changed. But everyone in the office noticed something unusual. His coffee remained untouched. Mortar Han spoke carefully. Chairman, this has become personal. Tae-jun nodded once. It always was. He pressed the intercom. Cancel every meeting and bring me every security report from the past 10 years. The executives exchanged worried glances when Kang Tae-jun investigated personally. People disappeared. Meanwhile, Naomi had no idea what was happening upstairs. She was in the employee lounge helping decorate for the company's annual charity gala. Colorful ribbons covered the tables. Volunteers laughed as they packed donation boxes for children's hospitals. Naomi smiled. This looks beautiful. One designer sighed dramatically. I'm terrible at tying bows. Naomi laughed. So am I. 5 minutes later, everyone was laughing together after Naomi accidentally tied 2 ribbons into one giant knot. For the first time in years, the office felt less like a battlefield and more like a family. Across the room, Kang Tae-jun quietly watched through the glass wall. Mr. Han noticed. You've been standing here for 10 minutes. I know. You could simply walk in. Tae-jun looked away. I don't want to interrupt. Mr. Han smiled. No, you don't want to scare them. The chairman didn't deny it. That afternoon, preparations for the charity gala continued. The event would raise millions for orphanages and children's medical centers. Business leaders from around the world were expected to attend. Naomi was placed in charge of guest coordination. She nearly fainted. I've never organized anything this big, Mr. Han smiled. That's exactly why the chairman chose you. She blinked. He trusted me? He did. Naomi took a deep breath. I won't let him down. Unknown to everyone, Yu Min-seo had already infiltrated the event planning team under a fake consulting company. She wore a designer suit and a charming smile. Nobody recognized her. She quietly handed one waiter a sealed envelope. Deliver this to Miss Brooks during the gala. What is it? A surprise invitation. The waiter shrugged. Of course. Saturday evening finally arrived. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the grand ballroom. International diplomats, CEOs, celebrities, philanthropists filled the luxurious venue. Naomi, wearing a simple navy blue evening dress, nervously checked the guest list. She looked elegant without trying. Many guests assumed she came from old money. They couldn't have been more mistaken. Across the room, Kang Tae-jun entered wearing a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. Conversation stopped instantly. Every eye followed him. Yet, instead of greeting the wealthiest investors first, he walked directly toward Naomi. You've done well. She smiled nervously. Thank you. I'm still afraid something will go wrong. He looked at the beautifully decorated ballroom. It already went right. Before she could answer, the waiter approached. Miss Brooks, a message for you. She opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Someone here knows who attacked you. Come alone to the rooftop. Don't tell anyone. Naomi's heart raced. Could this finally reveal the truth? She quietly looked around. No one seemed suspicious. She slipped out of the ballroom unnoticed, except Kang Tae-jun noticed. He watched her disappear through the service hallway. Something felt wrong. 5 minutes later, Naomi stepped onto the rooftop. The city lights stretched endlessly beneath the night sky. Cold wind swept across the building. Hello? She called softly. No answer. Only silence. Then, the rooftop door slammed shut behind her. Click locked. Naomi spun around. A familiar voice echoed through the darkness. You really are easy to fool. Yu Min-seo slowly stepped into the moonlight. Elegant, confident, smiling. Naomi frowned. Who are you? Min-seo laughed. The woman who should have standing beside Kang Tae-jun. Understanding slowly filled Naomi's eyes. It was you. You spread the rumors. You hired those men. Min-seo clapped slowly. Very good. You catch on quickly. She stepped closer. You walked into his life and ruined years of my plans. Naomi shook her head. I don't want anything from him. Liar. I swear, I only work for him. Min-seo's smile disappeared. That's exactly the problem. He trusts you. He never trusted me. She pulled a small remote control from her purse. Naomi looked confused. What is that? Min-seo pressed the button. Suddenly, the rooftop lights went completely dark. Emergency alarms began echoing throughout the building. Guests inside the gala panicked. Security teams rushed in every direction. It was the perfect distraction. Min-seo whispered. By the time they find you, it'll be too late. She took one dangerous step forward. Then a powerful voice thundered across the rooftop. Get away from her. Both women turned, standing in the doorway. Surrounded by armed security officers was Kang Tae-jun. But this time, there was no calm expression, no controlled silence. For the first time in years, the feared Mafia boss looked truly angry. And everyone knew. Someone was about to pay the price. The rooftop fell silent. Only the sound of the wind echoed between the skyscrapers. Min-seo's confident smile slowly disappeared. She had expected panic. She had expected confusion. She had never expected Kang Tae-jun himself. He walked toward Naomi without taking his eyes off Min-seo. Are you hurt? Naomi shook her head. I'm okay. Only after hearing those words did he stop. Then he turned to Min-seo. His expression became colder than anyone had ever seen. So, it was you. Min-seo folded her arms. You figured it out. I figured it out. The moment my secretary received a necklace she never asked for, she laughed softly. I underestimated her. No, Tae-jun replied. You underestimated yourself. Security officers quietly surrounded the rooftop. Every exit was blocked. Still, Min-seo smiled. You can't arrest me. I covered every trail. Tae-jun nodded. For a while, he looked toward Mr. Han, who had just arrived carrying a tablet. We found the fake courier account. The photographer confessed. The men who attacked Naomi identified the person who hired them. Mr. Han pressed a button. Several recordings began playing. One after another pawn calls, bank transfers, security footage. Every piece of evidence pointed to Min-seo. For the first time, her confidence cracked. This is impossible, Tae-jun answered quietly. You made one mistake. You believed fear creates loyalty. It doesn't. The people you paid chose the truth. Security officers stepped forward. Min-seo looked around desperately. There was nowhere left to run. As she was escorted away, she stopped in front of Naomi. I still don't understand. What does he see in you? Naomi looked at her with calm eyes. I never tried to make him notice me. I only tried to be kind. For a moment, Min-seo couldn't answer. She lowered her head and walked away in silence. The rooftop became quiet once again. Naomi let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It's finally over. Tae-jun looked across the city lights. Yes, it is. The charity gala resumed an hour later. Most guests never learned what had happened upstairs. The donations exceeded every expectation. Millions of dollars were raised for children's hospitals, shelters, and education programs. As the evening ended, the host invited Kang Tae-jun to the stage. He rarely gave speeches. Most people expected only a few formal words. Instead, he looked around the ballroom for several seconds before speaking. When people hear my name, they think of power. They think of fear. They think of success. He paused. They are only half right. The room grew completely silent. I spent years believing strength meant standing alone. I believed kindness made people weak. Then his eyes found Naomi standing quietly near the back of the ballroom. But someone reminded me that the strongest people are often the ones who expect nothing in return. Many guests turned to see whom he was looking at. Naomi immediately lowered her eyes, embarrassed. Tae-jun continued. Because of one employee, our company now protects every worker. Our employees spend more time with their families. Our charity budget has doubled, and I have learned something money could never buy. The audience erupted into applause. Naomi felt tears filling her eyes. She had never imagined that simple acts of kindness could change an entire company. After the gala, the building slowly emptied. Naomi stood alone on the balcony, overlooking the city. The cool night breeze carried the distant sounds of Seoul below. Tae-jun walked beside her. Neither of them spoke for a while. Finally, Naomi smiled. You know, I almost quit on my first day. I know. I was certain you hated me. A faint smile appeared on his face. I didn't. You terrified me. I know. They both laughed. It was the first genuine laugh they had shared together. After a comfortable silence, Tae-jun reached into his pocket. He handed her a small silver key card. Naomi looked confused. What's this? The executive office. You've earned unrestricted access. She looked at the card for several moments. This is a lot of trust. It is. And I don't intend to break it, I know. For the first time, neither of them needed to say anything more. Sometimes, trust spoke louder than words. Far below, employees leaving the building noticed the chairman and his secretary talking peacefully on the balcony. Nobody whispered this time. Nobody spread rumors. Instead, several smiled, because they had watched both of them change. The feared chairman had become a leader people admired. The awkward secretary had become the heart of the company. And neither transformation would have happened without the other. As the city lights sparkled beneath the night sky, neither of them realized that this was not the end of their journey. It was only the beginning. Monday morning arrived with something the employees had never experienced before. Laughter. The once silent headquarters felt alive. People greeted one another in the hallways. Managers stopped to thank their teams. The cafeteria was full instead of empty. The company had changed, and everyone knew why. As Naomi walked through the lobby, dozens of employees smiled. Good morning, Miss Brooks. Morning. Thanks again for helping my daughter last week. The flowers you sent my mother were beautiful. Naomi blushed. You all make me sound much nicer than I really am. One of the janitors chuckled. No. You simply notice people. Those words stayed with her all day. Later that afternoon, Kang Tae-jun called the entire company to the main auditorium. More than 3,000 employees filled the hall. No one knew why. When Tae-jun stepped onto the stage, complete silence followed. For years, his speeches had always been about profits, expansion, competition, never people. Today was different. He looked across the crowd before speaking. When I founded this company, I believed respect could be earned through fear. I was wrong. The audience listened carefully. I watched one employee treat every person here with the same kindness. The receptionist, the janitor, the security guard, the executives. There was never any difference. He smiled slightly, and because of that, I realized leadership begins with humanity. A large screen behind him lit up. A new company slogan appeared. People before power. The audience applauded. Then he made another announcement. Beginning today, the Brooks Foundation will become our company's official charitable program. Naomi's eyes widened. She turned toward him in complete surprise. He continued, the foundation will provide scholarships for underprivileged students, emergency assistance for employees, and support for children's hospitals across the country. Tears filled Naomi's eyes. She whispered, You named it after me. Tae-jun nodded. Because one person's kindness inspired it. The applause lasted several minutes. After the ceremony ended, Naomi found him standing alone in the rooftop garden, where everything had nearly fallen apart weeks earlier. The flowers had been replanted, the broken railing repaired. The place looked peaceful again. She walked beside him. You didn't have to do all that. I wanted to. You've already changed so much. He looked at the skyline. So have you. She laughed softly. I still spill coffee. And you're still late to meetings. They both smiled. For a moment, neither spoke, then Taijun took a slow breath. There is something I've wanted to tell you. Naomi looked at him. What is it? I've negotiated billion-dollar contracts. I've faced men who wanted me dead. I've never been nervous. He smiled awkwardly. But somehow, you make me nervous. Naomi couldn't help laughing. The great Kang Taejun gets nervous? Only around one person. Silence settled between them. Then he continued. You never asked me for money. You never cared about my position. You treated me the same way you treated everyone else. He looked directly into her eyes. I fell in love with you because you reminded me how to be human. Naomi stood speechless. A gentle breeze moved through the rooftop garden. Finally, she smiled. You know what I liked first? He shook his head. The man who quietly paid a hospital bill without taking credit. The man who made sure parents could go home to their children. The man who pretended he didn't care, but always showed up when someone needed him. She stepped a little closer. I think I fell in love with him too. For the first time in many years, Kang Taejun's guarded heart was completely at peace. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Far below, employees looked up just in time to see the two of them standing together beneath the afternoon sun. No rumors followed, no whispers, only smiles. Months later, the company became known not only as one of Asia's most successful business empires, but also as one of its most generous. MLI families received scholarships. Children's hospitals received life-saving equipment. Workers were treated with dignity and respect. The feared mafia boss who once ruled through fear had become a leader remembered for compassion. And the secretary everyone thought would be fired. In a week, became the woman who transformed an empire simply by caring about people. The impossible job had found the only person who was never trying to survive it. She was simply trying to make someone's day a little better, and in doing so, she changed countless lives, including the man who had forgotten what kindness felt like. Like, subscribe, and support my channel. I really need your support. If you enjoy my video, please share it and leave your feedback in the comments.